What do you say, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Quarterback. Great to have you with us here on the BamaInsider YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as we talk Alabama football. So much to get into today. You guys know it. There's just a bunch of stuff to talk about. A disappointing game against LSU on Saturday. How's that going to affect Alabama? So much more to get into. Jimmy Stein will be here. Actually, you see him right there. He'll be talking to us in a second. Clint Lamb on assignment tonight. We'll have Joseph Hastings to get into recruiting coming up. But like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as you hang out on the BamaInsider YouTube channel. And again, thank you for being here tonight. And don't forget, our show is brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's literally a stone's throw from Bryant-Denny. You're near the Walk of Champions, Denny Chime, campus, the Strip, all of it there. Find out more information on these 1 to 5 bedroom units at westgateal.com. All right, Jimmy, first let's get into it. I know everyone that's hanging out with us here tonight, and I see you guys in the comments section. We'll be keeping an eye on what you got going on. But your thoughts on the game on Saturday and where Alabama goes from here?
You know, really, it's not so much about the specific game, Mick. It's about the season as a whole. And, you know, if you just told me on the surface that Alabama would lose 2 games by a total of 4 points on the road to top 10 teams, that doesn't sound anything like a disaster. That just sounds like football. I mean, you know, losing tight games to top 10 teams on the road. I mean, that's just welcome to football. But here's the thing, Mick, that's a little bit troubling. And that's that there's been 7 other games too. And in those games, it's hard to pick out a time that Alabama played really well against a quality opponent for 60 minutes. It just hasn't happened all year. You barely beat Texas, who's good. They're not great, but they're good. You almost lose at home to A&M. You don't play well in the second half against Mississippi State offensively. Arkansas seems like the final score, an easy win. It really wasn't. It's 28-23 in the fourth quarter. You need 3 gigantic explosive plays by the offense to win that game in the fourth quarter. It's really been, I would say, I'm going to use the word troubling. You know, I think it's been a troubling season when stacked on last season. And that's my thoughts about the LSU game, really, is, gosh, it's one more entry into, it's just troublesome. Alabama did not play well at all offensively in this game for 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, they came to life a little bit, sort of saved the game, sort of saved a chance to win the game. But for 3 quarters, the offense was pretty abysmal. Then the offense gets it together, Mick, and the defense, which had played really well, frankly, for 3 quarters, at the end, the defense just couldn't get a stop. Right. They had been nearly dominant in the first half, holding LSU to just 7 points. Really, in the whole game, LSU didn't have much offense. They had 360 yards. I think half of that was in the fourth quarter. It's just a little frustrating. Now that said, these are, in basketball, which starts tonight, let's use a basketball term, quality loss. You know what I mean by that? It's a top 10 team on the road in a game decided by 1 play. I think a lot of the skies falling crowd fails to see that Alabama is not getting blown out in these games. They're not getting pushed around. They're not getting killed. It's not a Texas A&M situation where you're preseason top 6 and may not even qualify for a bowl. That's a true disaster. At Alabama, it's just you kind of feel like the team and the program is in need of a little bit of hitting a reset button.
Yeah, look, I mean, to me, it's like you said, it's really been the last 2 years where Alabama's lost their dominance. They're still a really good team. They're just not elite anymore. At least this year. Last year they got to the championship game. A lot of close games this year. Really a tough schedule, though, Jimmy, too. I mean, this is the toughest road schedule that I remember Alabama having. But with that said, it really hasn't mattered home or road. They just haven't put together a full game, it doesn't seem like.
That's right. And when you look at the last 2 years, it is true. Hey, Alabama did make it to the national championship game, and Alabama's not broke. They're not. They're a top 10 team right now. ESPN's FPI, which is a really difficult analytic. It's really difficult to understand what ESPN is trying to tell us with their FPI. It's a forward-looking thing, but ESPN's FPI says Alabama's still the third best team in college football. And so it's not disgraceful. It's 2 losses by 1 score on the road to top 10 teams.
Right. Walk-off scores too. I mean,
Exactly.
I mean, but look, the bigger issue to me is, is that first off with the coordinators, Bill O'Brien just isn't creative to me. I mean, and I'm comparing him to the guys that Alabama had before, Lane Kiffin and not saying Mike Locksley was super creative, but he was more creative. And then Steve Sarkisian, that's the standard that Alabama has. It's a very vanilla offense.
Yeah. There's not a lot of solutions or scheming people open. And it's really frustrating that it seems next to impossible 9 games into the year. It seems impossible for Bryce Young, who is, like I've said before, and I'm not changing my mind, he's the best quarterback that's ever played quarterback at Alabama. I really believe that. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't feel possible for Bryce Young to take the snap, look at his primary target, who is a wide receiver, down the field and throw and complete a pass to that player. It's like that feels impossible to Alabama. The lack of production and the lack of playmaking from that wide receiver group, to me, is the number one story of this offense. And of Bill O'Brien's failures, if you want to put it that way, to me, the number one failure is the complete lack of ability to complete balls to wide receivers down the field. It's like, and it's baffling. It really is baffling. I know we're supposed to have some answers, right, Mick?
Right.
But it is very difficult for me to explain why the Heisman Trophy winner, who did this routinely a year ago, can't do it this year. I don't think it's on Bryce. I really don't. Here's another thing that's really improved. These numbers might be a little off because I don't have them in front of me. They're off the top of my head. But I believe, Mick, that Bryce was sacked something like 38 times last season. That I might be under on that. He was sacked something like 38 times. This year, he's been sacked 6 or 8 times. The pass protection is really good. I think a quick reaction to why can't Alabama complete passes to the wide receivers is that the protection's poor. The protection is actually pretty outstanding. Mm-hmm. And the offensive line is still a bit of a struggle in the run game, but the pass pro is really, really good. The numbers bear that out. My rewatch thread, where we carefully rewatch the game every week, that bears it out. Whether it's a blitz situation and the other team's just rushing forward, generally the pass protection holds up. We just can't spring wide receivers open enough for Bryce to feel confident getting the ball to them. The throws to the backs are still productive and great. The throws to Latu seem to work pretty well. But gosh, that wide receiver core, Mick, just somebody make a play. I mean,
somebody get open. I mean, I watched from the Sky Cam for a little bit on Saturday, and they're not open. I mean, they are literally blanketed. I mean, like when Bryce Young actually had guys that were open last year, and John Mechie, Slade Bolden, and Jamison Williams, he got the ball to him. How do these guys not get open? I mean, aren't these a bunch of 4- and 5-star guys?
Yes. Yeah, it's like I said, baffling is the word I use. And when you say, well, it's on the coaches, on the wide receiver coach, on the coordinator. This was the same coordinator, the same wide receiver coach that got guys open consistently last year, play to play, snap to snap. The only change is the dudes. We changed out the dudes. We went from J-Mo and Mech and Bolden, who was always open, by the way, or often open. He didn't make a big play after the catch, but Bolden got open.
Right.
They're gone, replaced by this group who's a combination of guys that returned and freshmen. And there's just not a lot of playmaking there. And it's very, frustrating. I'm sure it's frustrating for the coaches. It's, they're not blind to this either. But in terms of why it's not working, I don't know. I just soon tell you what water tastes like.
Yeah, I was curious, early in the game, why they weren't running the ball. They were deep in LSU territory. They just kept throwing the ball. I thought that was one of the problems that they have, that, it used to be that Alabama's offense was very balanced, run pass.
Yep.
Now it's like 51 passes and, how many runs, and it's such a discrepancy that that they're going to pass every single time. I mean, like it felt like that on Saturday.
Yeah, 51 passes and I think 26 runs to the backs. What's really interesting is, Mick, and this is probably one of the more fascinating aspects of analyzing the Alabama offense this season, is if you look at the numbers, average yard per carry. How many yards does Gibbs have? How many yards does Jace McClellan have?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. It's like the best they've ever had.
Right. It's not bad.
It's like 6-something.
The numbers look like Alabama runs the ball really well. Something like you said, I think going into LSU was 6.2 yards per carry, and I doubt that went down. Alabama, on a per carry basis, the numbers are great. But the reality of the situation is, when you run the ball with the backs, there's too many plays for no gain. There's too many short gains. Frankly, at Alabama, I think if you run it 3 plays in a row, you're probably punting the ball. The fact of the matter is, the yards per carry number is aided by a handful of big plays that Alabama makes every game, because Gibbs is that sort of back, McClellan's that sort of back, where they'll make the big play and it affects the average. But the fact is, Alabama doesn't run for 5 and 6 and 7 and 5 and 6 and 4 and 8. It's more like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and eventually 60. And that's why the yard per carry number looks good. And you can tell in the play calling, Mick, that Coach O'Brien and Nick Saban, who's also responsible for the play calling, by the way, he is the head coach. You can also tell that they don't have a ton of confidence in Alabama's ability to run the ball, and highlighted by, and this affected Alabama early in that LSU game, 2 trips inside the 5, resulting in just 3 points. And that cost Alabama the ball game. Reason being, Mick, when the field gets smaller, when everyone's bunched up, when it's tougher to run the ball, it feels like run the ball is not even a real option. I mean, when it's 1st and goal at the 4, and I could be wrong, and maybe somebody's got numbers that say, Jimmy, look, that number's wrong, but it feels like when it's 1st and goal at the 4, if you run the ball, you have wasted a down. And that's a huge issue with Alabama football going forward.
Yeah, look, I can't disagree with that at all. And, look, I don't know what the answer is. I do know that for the first time since 2007, there's really not a lot to play for as far as championships go. I mean, there's an outside shot that maybe LSU loses to Arkansas and that awful Texas A&M team. Arkansas lost to Liberty last week. I mean, like, the chances of that happening are slim. Maybe they lose one of the games on the road, but to lose both games, who knows? But Alabama in a very different place this season. Is this the end of the dynasty? I mean, are we seeing the beginning of this thing starting to fall apart?
Well, one thing I will say about that is it could be. I don't think so. I think Alabama's got too much talent on the roster. Alabama's still got an energetic Nick Saban. I don't believe it is. I like what Alabama could have coming back next season. And I said I believe there'll be changes on the staff. I believe that. I'm not saying whether I think there should be or not. It doesn't matter. I just think there will be. I think at Alabama, coordinators seem to have a shelf life, more or less. And I just personally believe that Alabama will have a different offensive coordinator and a different defensive coordinator next season. And I'd be interested to see what kind of new life, new ideas, new changes that brings. And again, Alabama have a lot of new starters, believe it or not, even with so many fans disappointed about the 2 losses. A lot of this starting lineup on offense and defense is headed to the NFL. A lot.
Yeah.
So it is going to be a lot of new next season, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the talent level will still be high. I think this is the 3rd time. I meant to go back and count today, but we're doing so many different things at BamaInsider, I couldn't get to that. But I believe, Mick, this is the 3rd time during the dynasty that Alabama has lost 4 times in a 15-game period or a 19-game period. 4 times in 19 games. This is the 3rd time it's happened. So there has been this level of losing in the dynasty that didn't end the dynasty. Alabama has not won the SEC West every year of the dynasty. Twice they didn't win the West and won the national championship. There is still a path to getting to Atlanta.
Right.
Slim, like you said, it's slim. Maybe the chances are slim and none is leaving town. Or Slim's leaving town.
Slim's leaving. Yeah.
Slim's leaving town and none's all we got left, right?
Yeah, right.
But winning on the road in the SEC is tough. Alabama can tell you that. Arkansas has played better than they played against Liberty last week. KJ Jefferson's a good quarterback when he's feeling good and healthy. And A&M, for all their problems, and there's a lot of problems, they did have a significant illness issue this past weekend. And I think when they get Connor Wigman back for these last couple of games, maybe beating A&M and College Station's a little tougher than some would think. Alabama certainly thought so a year ago. So I don't think it's impossible for LSU to lose at Arkansas and at Texas A&M. And if so, Alabama can get to Atlanta. But Alabama's going to have to beat a good Ole Miss team Saturday in Oxford. And the Alabama team we've seen so far on the road, man, I would say about the most you can hope for is a 1-score game that comes down to the end, and you hope this time it's Alabama that makes the play. Based on how Alabama's played on the road the last 2 seasons, that's about all you can really hope for. But I tend to think if Alabama puts it all together, and they're so overdue for that, then Alabama can win this game easily, because I don't think this is a great Ole Miss team. Alabama would be their best win by far. And of course, sadly for Alabama, Ole Miss would be Alabama's best win.
Yep, right. Well, Alabama's got a lot of work to do. I mean, forget about winning and losing. They've got a lot of work to do. I mean, just fundamentally, they're just not up to their standard. I mean, everyone else would probably say, hey, it's a pretty good season. But Alabama's at a very high standard, and they're not living up to that this year, Jimmy. And we'll find out what happens Saturday. Hopefully they'll go in there and play like there is something to play for. We'll find out 2:30 in Oxford on Saturday. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us, Jimmy. Tell everyone what you got going on at BamaInsider.com.
Yeah, we're just halfway through. I think what's popular, people on the Bama Insider message board like the rewatch thread, which I work, which is basically a go back, rewatch the game possession by possession, give my thoughts on every possession. Our subscribers, they chime in with their thoughts. We sort of piece together what happens, a little bit of not just an analysis, but a little bit of an autopsy, what happened. So that's been popular. And of course, Alabama plays basketball tonight against Longwood. Did a little story today on the message board about this good Longwood team, and Alabama's about to tip that off soon. So a little excited about seeing Nate Oates' bunch.
Yeah, it's exciting. Basketball season is starting. Still a lot to do Monday Night Football wise, or here on Monday Night Quarterback. But Jimmy, we'll talk to you next Monday.
Thanks so much, Mick.
Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with us. That's Jimmy Stein, Bama Insider, BamaInsider.com. Let me tell you guys about BamaInsider.com. For just $1, you get 4 months. If you want to try it out, you want to check it out, message board. Jimmy's on there every day with Clint Lamb. They're chopping it up with you guys. Or you can do $10 for an entire year. And I think that's a really great deal as we continue to cover Alabama recruiting with Andrew Bone and our next guest, Joseph Hastings. So like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as you hang out with us here on Monday Night Quarterback. And let's bring Joseph on and talk a little bit of Alabama football. What's up, Joseph? How you been, man?
Mick, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself today, man?
Yeah, doing good, man. Just trying to put together this, this Alabama football season. Obviously, not the type of season that we're accustomed to. I think we've been spoiled with Nick Saban and the just the amazing amount of success that Alabama is having. Here we are with 3 games left, and what are we playing for? That's a big question for us.
It's so funny because, obviously I grew up in Gainesville. I saw University of Florida at their very highs and a lot of lows for the program, especially over the past 10 years. And honestly, getting to a 10-win season was great for UF. And you could just kind of, as I've made this shift here to covering Alabama, you can kind of see the standard. There's expectation of not necessarily perfection, because perfection's impossible to achieve, but to strive for perfection. And if you land just a little bit lower, you reach greatness, which is typically where Alabama resides. And this season, for them to lose 2 games like this by combined 4 points, you can take the optimistic viewpoint, say Alabama's 5 points away from being undefeated and heading to Atlanta, or you can take the viewpoint, which is both sides are valid. You can take the viewpoint that there are a lot of issues that need to be corrected, which I completely agree with, and the future of Alabama football, at least for the 2023 season, remains a little bit unclear. But it just goes to show the standard that Alabama holds itself to, that they lost 2 games on the road against 2 top 10 programs by combined 4 points. And it's a disappointing season.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. It's not necessarily the fact that they lost. It's more just how they've played. They've made a standard of not getting a bunch of penalties and playing smart football and making tackles and having receivers that get open and blocking and doing all these things, and they just haven't accomplished that. I mean, I think that's what most Alabama fans are worried about. If Alabama was losing because, other teams were playing incredible games, that'd be one thing. This team can't get a turnover. Wide receivers can't get open. It's amazing that they have been in these games until the end because they've made so many mistakes, but it also goes to show, how much talent they have. And they're trying to add talent right now. So let's start with the recruits' reaction to that LSU game.
Yeah, so this is interesting because immediately after the LSU game, everyone thinks the sky's fallen. There's going to be a wave of decommitments. Obviously there hasn't been any decommitments at this time in the 2023, 2024, 2025 class. Alabama's kind of steadied the ship, but obviously there is some concern, especially with Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, 2 of Alabama's top commits visiting Georgia this past weekend. So they got to see Georgia shut down a team that Alabama gave up 52 points to. Essentially, UGA did the opposite, what Bama couldn't do to stop that high-powered Tennessee offense. As for recruit reactions, I got to speak with Caleb Downs' father, Gary Downs. He talked to me about the Georgia trip, said that, a big part of it was just being able to see what Georgia was going to be able to do against Tennessee. Return to UGA for a top 3 matchup. That's just something they couldn't miss. And honestly, if I'm living in the Atlanta area and I have an opportunity to go there for free as a recruit guest, I'm probably taking that, even if I am committed to Alabama or wherever, just because of the magnitude of that game. But he told me that he believes his son is locked in with the Crimson Tide. The Alabama hasn't done necessarily anything to change, the commitment status that Downs has with the program. What he told me, and this is really interesting, he said the fundamentals of Alabama are still the same. Nick Saban is the head coach. He's going to be Caleb's going to be coached by Travaris Robinson, Charles Kelly, mainly Charles Kelly there, the safeties coach. And the structure, the organizational structure is still in place. So I thought that was a pretty interesting way to word it. And, Caleb kind of echoed same sentiments to me when I spoke with him last month after the Tennessee loss. So, Caleb is a very, very smart kid. He's honestly one of the smartest recruits I've ever covered before. One of the smartest people I've met at his age, just in terms of his ability to process things. And I think he realizes, look, these were 2 close games. It was two road matchups, 2 top 10 teams. Alabama, it could have gone either way, essentially, with how those games played out. There are issues that need to be corrected. He knows that. But I don't think nothing has drastically changed his perspective about Alabama. Andrew Bone and I spoke with a few of the other Alabama commits in the 2023 class, Ty Lockwood, and, we also got to speak with Miles McVay and Jaleel Hurley and a few others. And the overall message is, look, it sucks. I heard the word hurt a couple of times, that they felt hurt about the losses, but overall they feel like Alabama's going to be able to respond to this, get back to Alabama football, the Bama standard, and move on, end the season off on a high note, and build for next year. A couple of commits I had, specifically Justin Jefferson, the junior college linebacker pledge. He told me that, look, I'm not here, so I don't have any takeaways from the LSU game. I can't control anything. I really love that perspective that he has there. He's excited to get on campus in January and hopes to make an impact. So, as I said before, no decommitments at this time. There's a few prospects we're obviously continuing to monitor, but Alabama, it's not like Alabama's getting blown out in these games. And to be honest, Mick, they could easily be 5-4 right now. And they could have lost the Texas game if when Ewers didn't get hurt. They could have lost the Texas A&M game. So, there's different ways to look at it. I think the commits realize that Alabama's had a little bit of a tough go, but it's not like the sky is falling. There's still a strong foundation there with the program.
Yeah, really good point. What were the what does 2024 commitment Julian saying mean for Alabama? I mean, this is a 5-star quarterback that I'm guessing you build your class around.
Exactly that, Mick. This is someone here who's one of the top rated players in the 2024 class, regardless of position. The On3 consensus has them as the number 14 overall prospect in the country. And look, when you have a quarterback, the automatic assumption is that the quarterback's going to be the leader of the class. There are some signal callers who don't take on that responsibility. They do participate in the recruiting process, and people look to them, especially wide receivers that a program's recruiting, running backs, offensive linemen. Who am I going to be protecting for, or who am I going to be getting the ball from? Are they going to make my job easier? And it can definitely help out a recruiting class moving forward, especially with Alabama here as they try to build upon that 2024 class. They already have a couple of solid additions on the offensive side of the football, and Perry Thompson, a fast rising wide receiver out of Foley, Alabama, and Martavius Collins, tight end out of Georgia. But obviously they're going to still build upon that, and Julian Sain is the perfect person to do it around. Alabama, I think they've had some success with quarterbacks out of California, undersized quarterbacks out of California. So they're hoping Julian Sain can do the same thing too. You look at him; he can throw on the run. He can throw. What I really like, and you saw it on that last play, is that he can throw with contact in his face. With defenders barreling down on him. Really good pocket passer. That's kind of what he is at this stage in his career. He is mobile. He's not like a statue in the pocket, but he's someone who's going to primarily hang out there in the pocket, deliver deep throws, has really good touch, can work the short to intermediate game as well. Just a lot to be excited about there for Alabama fans.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of sets the standard as we move forward. Guys, as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. We talk Alabama football every Monday. We talk about the games. We get into recruiting. We do all that stuff, and we appreciate you being here. Hit the bell so every time we're live, Nick Saban talks, the players talk. We're going to have that for you as well right here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can hang out with Joseph, Andrew Bone, get all of the latest recruiting nuggets at BamaInsider.com. $10 for an entire year. Now that we're part of On3, you're going to want to be a part of it. It's the new world order of team coverage. I promise you, man. We and you haven't even seen anything yet. We're building every single day. So get on now while you can be part of something really cool. All right, let's talk about top targets and where Bama stands with them.
Yeah, so on the offensive side of the football, it's pretty clear. It's Jaron Hamilton, wide receiver out of Gainesville, Florida, someone we talked about before. I really like Alabama's chances there. The Crimson Tide are going to get him on campus for an official visit at the end of the month for the Iron Bowl. So he's the primary one to focus on. They're also trying to flip Lawson Lucky out of Georgia, the Bulldogs tight end pledge. May get him on campus for the Iron Bowl, did get him on campus for the Texas A&M game. So those are the two primary ones on offense we're looking at. And on the defensive side of the football, that's where the fun starts, in my opinion. You got Jordan Hall, top 30 overall prospect, the defensive lineman out of Jacksonville. Alabama, I think, could potentially be running as high as number 2 in his recruitment, but Georgia is the program right now that leads for him. They're going to be getting an official visit from him in December. They're kind of in the best spot, but Bama's really pushing there. Got him on campus last month for an official. Obviously James Smith and Quay Rousseau, they're the package deal out of Montgomery, Alabama, Carver High School. We don't really need to talk too much about them. I feel like we talk about James Smith and Quay Rousseau every single week, but Alabama has to like where they stand with them. We'll get them on campus for the Iron Bowl too, and then an official in December. There's a couple other defensive lineman targets like David Hobbs and Ruben Bain, but switching over to linebackers, you've got Arian Carter, the Memphis linebacker commitment. Alabama's going to be getting him on campus again for the, another Iron Bowl official visitor there. So you look at the on-3 recruiting prediction machine. Bama's the favorite to flip him. I like where they stand. Suntarian Perkins, the Ole Miss linebacker commit, he obviously remains a target too. You mentioned Quay Rousseau, and then there's this guy Keon Keeley, who may just be the most popular 2023 prospect in the country right now outside of Arch Manning. So he's someone that Alabama fans are hoping to get in the mix. Don't know when he's going to be deciding. I ask pretty much every single day, someone from his camp, if he's going to be committing soon, and the answer I get is soon, but no firm date there. It's a top 2 there of Alabama and Ohio State. Florida's kind of lingering, but I think they faded. It's mainly Bama and Ohio State. I still lean Bama. As for the defensive backs, that's where it really kind of it also starts to pick up there, because you talk about Cormani McClain shocking the world and committing to Miami. He was an Alabama target. Malik Muhammad is committed to Texas. He remains a target for the Crimson Tide. And they've got Damari Brown, South Florida cornerback, who the Crimson Tide got on campus last month. We'll try to get him on campus for the Iron Bowl too. He's someone that I think Miami's leading for him, but I think he's really open to leaving South Florida and potentially going to Alabama. Crimson Tide obviously recruit well at American Heritage with Patrick Surtain and Dallas Turner and others, Earl Little. So Damari's the primary one we're focused on, but Tyler Scott out of Georgia is taking an official this month. And they're keeping their eyes on some other cornerback targets. But it's going to be really interesting to see how they finish out this class. They got 23 commitments at this time. How many of them stick through? I'm not predicting anyone to decommit from this current class, but that's always something you have to watch out for, especially when a team doesn't live up to preseason expectations. How would Bama adjust in that situation? So the final number feels like it's going to be 30 to 31. I'm not. Maybe I might go on a limb and do a mock class and just throw what I have at the wall and see what sticks. But, my best guess there. But, I think it's going to end up around 30, 31. And those targets I mentioned, those are the primary ones. But you never know. Bama may expand the board depending on how their pursuit of other recruits plays out.
Yeah, it's good to, kind of analysis there, because we see it every year. We kind of have a number in our head, and then it ends up being different. It always seems like they find a couple more guys between, now and then. What should we be watching with recruiting going forward? What are we looking for here?
I mean, the main thing is the Iron Bowl weekend, with the prospects they're going to be getting in town. I mentioned Arian Carter, James Smith, and Quay Rousseau. You'd imagine that most of the 2023 class is on campus. Desmond Ricks, as you see there, he's going to be taking his official visit for the Iron Bowl, same as Jaron Hamilton. So you're going to have a lot of targets, and then you're also going to have a lot of committed prospects in town that weekend. You'd expect for those commits to be in the ears of those targets throughout the weekend. Let them know, hey, Alabama's the move. I think it's big time that Tony Mitchell and also Jaleel Hurley are going to be taking their official visits for that weekend too. So you're going to have 2 big time Alabama commitments, talking with them, letting them know, that Alabama should be their home at the next level. So that's a really, really big weekend. Early sign period starts December 21st, ends December 23rd. Keep that date in mind, the December 23rd date, because that's when Desmond Ricks will decide. LSU leads right now for him on the on-3 recruiting prediction machine. I still think there's a chance for Alabama to pull that one off. He'll be committing on December 23rd and signing that day too, and enrolling early. So, Alabama lost out on Cormani McClain. He shocked the world, went to Miami, but they may have gotten a gift here with Desmond Ricks reclassifying from 2024 to 2023. He's absolutely one to pay attention to. And there's just so much that's going to be happening over these next few weeks. I don't know how much sleep I'm going to be getting. I'm going to try and get 4 hours, but there's just a lot happening with recruiting right now, and a lot to pay attention to. And also Eric in the comments mentioned Anthony Hill too. Anthony is an interesting situation because Alabama didn't feel too confident before he committed to Texas A&M. Decommitted from A&M today. The expectation is that Bama's gonna try to pursue him, but Texas is the program that appears to be the favorite here. He is absolutely someone worth mentioning, though. 5-star linebacker, top-ranked linebacker in the country, would be huge for the Crimson Tide, especially if they can pair him with Arian Carter. So great point there by Eric.
All right. Well, Joseph, anything else before we bid you farewell tonight.
No, just join us in the Talk of Champions message board. We're going to be having a game thread for Alabama's men's basketball game tonight. We'd love to talk with you all, talk about what Bama does. The women's team got off to a 47-point win tonight, so congratulations to them, and let's see what Bama's men's basketball team can do.
All right, yeah, the number 20 team in the country playing Longwood, that coming up here shortly. And so because of that, we'll probably just, let you get the basketball and appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us. A big game for the Crimson Tide and Nate Oates and his club. Joseph, though, always awesome work. And, man, come back next Monday.
Looking forward to it, Meg. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. That's Joseph Hastings, and you know him from BamaInsider.com. He's covering recruiting every day. He and Andrew Bone, they double team it. You need to check it out. BamaInsider.com. $10 gets you an entire year, or $1 gets you 4 months, and that just kind of lets you get your feet wet as we really change the face of team sites, team coverage. You get all the nuggets, all the insider stuff going on with recruiting. You get the message boards. He's talking about that tonight. Jimmy Stein will be on there. You heard from him earlier. Clint Lamb, a regular, on there as well. And it's just going to keep getting better and better and better. Guys, thank you for hanging out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, hit the bell. That's a way that you say Roll Tide as Alabama moves forward to take on Ole Miss on Saturday. And look, our show is brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. And I mean right next to Bryant-Denny Stadium, westgateal.com. 1 to 5 bedroom units, the oversized balconies that, depending on where you are in the building, you might be looking at the football stadium. You might be looking at downtown Tuscaloosa, maybe the Strip. They're awesome. It's great. The parking's amazing. The Skygate Club, that's where we are after every Alabama home game. So we got a couple more dates there this season. If you are looking to invest, there's some units that are still for sale. Or if you just want to come to town and try them out, hey, they're available as well to rent. So Westgate Luxury Condominiums right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium, westgateal.com. All right, for Chris Daughtry behind the scenes, another great job, and Kyle Henderson, the man that puts all this together. I'm Mick Gillispie, Monday Night Quarterback in the books. Tomorrow we'll be back on with Andrew Bone at 8 o'clock to talk Alabama recruiting with Bone. That's every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We'll have Nick Saban if he talks, get you all the coverage of Alabama getting ready for Ole Miss. And don't forget, join us. The Bama Insider Tailgate Show will be live at the Floribama. Right there on the coast, Perdido Key, right on slap dab in the middle of Alabama and Florida, on the beach. That's our home when Alabama's on the road. We'll be there Friday night, 6 to 8. So if you're around, swing by and say hi to us. For Chris, Kyle, and our entire crew, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and Roll Tide.